Good evening, good day, and good morning. What we're going to do today is I'm going to unfold for you aspects of something that many are unfamiliar with. Even though we speak of Moorish science, very few actually know what that is. Moorish science, true Moorish science, is metaphysics. All right? Now, what is metaphysics? Metaphysics is, for all intent and purpose, meta means the unknown, okay? And metaphysics means that which is not yet known or can be adequately described by physics. Right? Physics. Physics are rule sets. They are laws. They are the underpinning cause and effect as to what creates this perceived reality. All right? But in reality, there are no meta aspects of metaphysics once one knows, because there are no mysteries. There are only missed stories. So what I'm going to try to unfold for you is a series of explanations that will assist you in understanding those stories that you are not familiar with. Not in an allegorical sense, but in a scientific sense. To unravel some of the missed stories so that you can understand the bigger. The reason for my pregnant pause is I'm trying to make sure that I utilize the words that will be comprehensible, opposed to using certain phrases that will be disassociative to you. In other words, you'll have no point of reference, so it might not make sense. So if you see me in a pregnant pause, it means that I'm looking for a colloquialized nomenclature, a word that will replace what it is that I was about to say that might not be familiar to the average person listening. And that's who I'm trying to reach. Not necessarily the scientists or metaphysicists that might know this material already, but for those who may be new to these philosophies and sciences. With meta meaning the unknown, and coupling that with physics, the science of the rule sets that describe the cause and effect. The meta aspect of that is simply for overcoming the metaphysical, or overcoming the meta aspect of that is simply done through explanation, and that's what I hope to do here, is explain it in a comprehensible enough manner in which you will be able to, through my unfolding, understand those things that heretofore have been either hidden from you or forgotten over the course of time. All right? Now, I have a series of notes that I'm keeping here, and my notes are so that I can stay on track, not wander off too far, and keep this as brief as possible, because there's a great deal of explanation that is going to be required. Also, what it does is that it allows for us to focus with more specificity on those things that are of the greatest importance. All right. So if you see me glancing down from time to time or whatever, that's what's going to be happening. I'm probably referring to a note or what have you, so don't necessarily get distracted by that. What's more important is to listen to the words that I'm saying. Take notes, because we're going to go in very deep, but certainly not as deep as one would get if they were to actually sit down and study this material, which I'm hoping that you will, and we'll provide you with sources by which you'll be able to do that. All right, so we're going to give you a lot of information, and a lot of very new information for many of you. But we'll also provide resources for you to vet, as well as to gather a greater amount of scientific information that you can proceed in your own course, speed, and direction. All right? Okay, so let's get ready to get started.
This introduction is the most important personal invitation you will ever receive. And to all of every nation, welcome to a journey which, for those whose numbers have been counted, will, by way of their intuit, elect to choose, to confirm and claim their rite of passage forward, back to their reunioning with the knowledge of the fundamental truths and basic laws of nature. Nothing short of a religioning of yourself with the undifferentiated singularity, the ultimate, omni-transformative, the omnipotent, omnipotent, omnipresent, all which is, all which was, all which will ever be. And yes, you will come to appreciate how many a lie have been told, often with nefarious, malicious intent, while others perhaps unintentionally perpetuated through a dogmatic ignorance and their blinding vehicles of institutionalized misguidance. Yet understand, the information and keys you may choose to receive are nothing new under the sun. This is more than a revealing. This is a restoring of your inalienable right to receive that which was shielded and cloaked in darkness from you from the time of Enoch till now, but no longer, for it is your choice to embrace or not an emerging collective consciousness, a global unified non-segregated force, in short, a map and compass to find oneself. Seek and ye shall find. The numbers are in stone. Welcome. We've been waiting. And now, the wait is over. The journey has begun.
All right, in this series, we're also going to provide you with charts. Some of these charts are from various sources that will help you to visualize what it is that I'm saying. But it'll also help you in your studying, that you'll be able to freeze the frame and jot down the information so that you too can do your further research, vetting, and qualifying, as well as quantifying the information that I'll be providing. All right? Also, because of the fact that, we're used to multitasking, listening auditorially, visual cortex stimuli, and the attention spans of our society today has become shorter and shorter. And I'm hoping that certain aspects of this material that you might find dry, we can kind of fill those gaps by the visual aspect of what's going on from time to time. Also, I want to have you be aware of the proximity in relationship to the various things that I might be saying to one another. So these visual aids will assist with that as well. All right? So as we proceed, just take into account some of those reasons. All right? So, another reason that I'm doing this is that I speak with a great deal of people. I receive calls all throughout the day. And sometimes my conversations with an individual might go on for an hour or two, literally. And then I'll pick up the phone and I'll have another conversation that might go on for an hour or two. But for me, it's the same conversation. For the person, it's different. Because when you're explaining some information that is what it is, you're not you're not trying to change or modify that because you want them to get the correct information. Oh, by the way, I have some dogs with me. So if you hear things moving around or what have you, that's my pooches, my guys, all right? Or if you hear some, you know, I got one here that likes to growl. He thinks he just doesn't have the vocal cords to say what it is that he wants to say. But he's a good guy, all right? Let you see these guys, all right? Got a big head one and a little one. All right. All right, so now you've met part of the family. All right, so here we go. We're about to go into it. And back to that explanation relative to the phone conversations. With me recording this now, for prosperity as well as for your study and the rest of it, is that if I get ready to have the same conversation with someone, hopefully now I'll be able to refer them to this or other aspects of this series. And I won't need to necessarily continue to have that same conversation over. All right? They can refer to this material, and I can move forward to explain other things that are also of connective value. All right? Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. All right, I want you to keep in mind as we go into this that you can get a more in-depth understanding of this material at the MoorishDirectory.com. That's the MoorishDirectory.com. As well as there you will find a publication called The Key. And this is the cover of The Key. And in The Key you will find a great deal more of the in-depth information explained in a manner in which you can study it in more detail. All right? Okay. So, for those that will want to pursue this to a more intense level, I would recommend and encourage you to obtain The Key, and that will allow for you to not only study it, but also have your own study sessions with respect to the material that's being provided here. All right? Okay. All right, so there's nothing that I'm going to tell you here that doesn't have logical backing and scientifically sound. All right? All right, TOE, T-O-E, means theory of everything. And Einstein provided at least this modern era, what we call the modern era. His understanding of the first toe. We consider it a smaller toe. And TOE is an acronym, TOE, which means theory of everything. One of which you can find more information on the smaller as well as the larger theories pertaining to how physicists describe the inner workings, the foundational, primal operation of this perceived reality in various formats and from various physicists. But what I'm hoping to be able to provide you is an overreaching concept of the greater reality opposed to the smaller reality that Einstein provided. All right? Okay. What Einstein was perceiving and explaining in his equations was what's called the unified field theory. Okay. It's general relativity, quantum physics, that define for science what reality is. But Einstein did not succeed. He worked on it for about 20 years, the last part of his career. He got close. He got to where he knew where the answer was, but he didn't quite pierce the envelope, okay, that membrane of understanding. One thing that helps us to appreciate that he was getting close to understanding it, before his retirement, he held a press conference, and in the press conference, he was asked, Dr. Einstein, what is reality? You have spent the last 20 years of your life studying this thing called reality, the physical objective realm, the realm in which objects exist. What is reality, they asked. And his response, Einstein's response was, it's the same thing that the gurus, the masterminds, the sages, the wise men of all ages have consistently informed you that it is. And that is reality is a illusion, but a persistent one. That was his response. And as I go into this, you'll come to appreciate how he was beginning to understand the realities which lie within the answers that can be found within metaphysics. All right? He got right up to the doorway, but he couldn't quite get on the inside. He was still kind of stuck in his box, his relative frame. Okay? All right. So we'll give you some of the information that he was able to unfold, but we're going to go in a lot deeper than Einstein was able to. That he was not able to reach. All right, he was providing what he could based upon the limited knowledge that science was able to provide at that time. Much of this information was known far, far ago, in an earlier period in time in which technologies were far greater than they are right now. Matter of fact, the Egyptians or the Hebraics did not create the pyramids. Okay, that was a what we would call a legacy. It was provided to them by their forebearers. Okay, the outside of the pyramid was so fine that today's technology cannot even create a contact lens as fine as the outside surface of what a pyramid had as its outer shield. All right? That's how advanced this technology was. But all of the information that I'm going to be providing to you is information that was at one point period in time, information that was common knowledge to a certain extent among the populace and communities of our ancient forebearers. So when one is studying this material, what you'll find is as you begin to understand it better and better, you will not feel as if you are learning as much as you will start to recognize you are remembering. Because we all have what's called genetic memory. And much of the genetic memory is stored within your melanin. And even though some of the information that I might be providing down the line might seem a little bit difficult to grasp at first, it will become clearer. But I can guarantee you, and you can be rest assured, that your subconscious understands everything that I'm telling you. And as you are sleeping, you will, during that rejuvenation period, you will begin to have a remapping of your neural fiber network that will begin to make this information easier to comprehend. Now, when we were all, through our own volition, had decided to come into this particular realm of existence and experience of sensation, we all came in just like our thumbprint or our footprint that is unique to each of us. All of us were provided a particular resonant frequency, an identity that was profound within its uniqueness because of its harmonic resonance with the universe. All right? However, we have, over the course of the annals of time, situationally been short-circuited, for lack of a better term. And what this material will help you to do as you're studying something such as the key, because the manner in which that it is put together is going to take you through graduated stages of an evolutionary process in mind consciously, wherein you will be able to re-perceive the information that was once, as I stated, commonplace for your ancient forebears. That's what Noble Drew Ali, part of what he was talking about when he was stating, return to the mindset of your ancient forebears. He was talking on an actual physical, metabiological level, that you will actually be able to begin to remap the neural fiber network. And in doing so, your resonant frequencies are going to begin to restructure themselves back to their original state. And in so doing, there is going to be a change in the flux resonance of your harmonic tone that identifies you. You will be reestablishing particular vibrational tonal frequencies that you have lost, as well as correcting or retuning those that have been made discordant, so that they are again harmonizing properly as intended for your particular frequency, all right, and signature. As you are recalibrating your frequency back to its original intended harmonic resonance, what is going to be occurring is, through your study, you are reconnecting yourself with your legion. Your legion is your group, your heritage, your hereditament, that constant connected consciousness that runs through the membrane of your actual physiological self within your genetic memories. that reconnecting with that legion, or religioning, is where we get the term religion. By religioning yourself with your ancient forebearers, you began to recalibrate yourself in such a manner that you are now actually in the applicable mindset and have the ability, along with responsibility, which simply means able to respond appropriately. So, with the response ability comes a requirement of you to conduct yourself in a proper manner that is in keeping with that harmonious state of being in which you were originally calibrated to interface within this realm. All right? Okay. So, now, with Einstein, as I said, he was dealing with a little toe. But that was just because that's where physics was at the time. Now that we're 50, 60 years past that, of course, the physicists of this day have progressed just as science does, exponentially. So now this technology and knowledge is such that, understanding now things that are below the what they call the Planck level. Planck means it's a measurement which is below the, or actually the line, which if you go below, then you are then below the atomic realm. And to help you appreciate the size or measurement of a Planck, if you were to have a grain of salt in comparison to the size of a Planck length, that grain of salt would be the size of our Milky Way galaxy. Now, it's below that level in which today now scientists are dealing with what they call the nanotechnologies, where you can create things within that realm where normal physics, or the normal physical operation of things within this objective reality where objects exist, do not operate in the same manner. That's why they're able to have the ability to produce and effectuate things which cannot be done within this realm, within that realm, because it falls below the physical atomic realm. And as you go deeper, even more so, you begin to enter into the realm of pure consciousness. That's, of course, passing those waves of what they call waves of probability and possibility. All right, everything in this existence is either a wave or a pulse, which can, in fact, also be changed, manipulated, and exchanged by and through consciousness. If you want to find out more about that, Google what's called the double slit experiment, and that will provide you a greater understanding as how, in fact, consciousness can modify physical reality. All right? Okay. So, The bigger toe is looking at the greater superset out of which the subset, objective reality, comes. Such as in the room that you're sitting in right now. There's nothing in the room that wasn't first in the mind of a man or a woman before coming into existence, before they brought it to fruition. Because initially all is mind. And as you'll come to appreciate as we get further into it, all remains mind, but it's just a greater mind. So we're going to be dealing with that superset, which is the predominant reality over this subset perceived reality. And with that, then you will also come to understand how it makes sense when we look at systems. Now, the term for system is cosmology. And the cosmos, or the greater system in which we operate in this physical realm, has many variables that we would not consider as being variables, such as time itself. Case in point, if you were to go to, let's say, a planet that had 100 times more mass than the Earth, and you were to travel down to its surface, and by the time you returned, let's say, 20, 30 minutes later, everyone, all of your colleagues aboard that ship would have aged a great deal. They would be old upon your return, because time is not a constant. It's a variable, as Einstein was explaining in his theorem, E equals mc squared, that he was talking about the relativity of matter. All right? And in this realm, everything has a physical nature to a certain degree. One of the smallest would be light. Okay? It's like a BB. And that light BB is called a photon. And what it does is it is an energy that ricochets off of those things that we see, comes back and hits our optic nerve, which generates a signal, ones and zeros, back to our cortex, optical cortex, and we can visualize, let's say, a yellow rose, which would mean then that since that rose is not absorbing that color yellow, it's absorbing every other color but that, and it is reflecting that color back to our cortex, where we perceive the color yellow, which would mean that that yellow rose is everything but yellow. Okay? But not to get too much into the minutiae yet of the operational aspect of this physical realm. We are just touching upon the fact that our physical biological avatar is set up in a manner where everything is based upon sensation, be it our feeling, be it our taste, be it our sight. All of those things are mechanisms and vehicles by which we are able to establish and make sense of, to a certain degree, those things around us. Now, one of the reasons that this is important, talking about systems and cosmologies, is that when we begin to talk about what the reason is for various things to occur in the manner in which they do, it is all relative to cause and effect. And if in fact one is able to go through a particular transmutation of consciousness in evolution. That's where we get the term Eve, as in Adam and Eve. Eve is actually evolution of the atom. And just by the way, much of what you'll be hearing me talk about, you'll be able to discern and differentiate. Certain things that you'll even find within the biblio-heliotext, the Bible, because, and these are not things for those who are unstudied yet to be afraid of or concerned of. You know, there's so much mythos involved within the dogma. Case in point, just as an example, 666. People call it the mark of the beast or the number of man, and where in fact it actually is the number of man, in that it is simply describing the characteristics of the carbon atom. We are carbon-based beings, so that would be 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, and 6 protons, 666. So it's identifying the nature of our carbon-based biometric avatars. All right? Now, back to the cause, most. That simply means, what is the cause of most things? And we'll find that as you become more response able, the more you become the cause of most things within your existence. Now, again, that occurs by the studying. And through that studying of the correct material in the proper manner, and that process of recalibrating your resonant frequency unique to yourself as intended to be, you are remapping the neural fiber network of your biological processor, which allows for a more optimum operation of all manner of things. And as that frequency begins to realign itself correctly and vibrate at the proper harmonic resonance, not only will you become physiologically healthier, you will also begin to, through that neural fiber network remapping, also begin to dissolve the calcium deposits around your pineal gland, which is, some people call it the third eye. It's actually the first eye. The window to the soul of man, the connector between this realm and the other realm, plural. And just as I'm touching my temple, pointing towards my neurofiber network, and more specifically to my pineal gland, I'm touching my temple, pointing in the direction of the soul of man, or touching the temple of the soul of man, or temple of Solomon. All right? So we're going to enter into realms of understanding here that are going to allow for us to begin to perceive things anew. And through this relegioning of yourself with your ancient forebearers and becoming of that same or similar mindset, then you are entering into the realm of actual Moorish sciences, the true operative functionality of metaphysics. But what we're going to do is we're going to first approach it so that you will understand it by assisting you to garner a greater appreciation for what that superset, or what people would call a spiritual realm perhaps, actually is. And how to utilize that as being the base of operation by which you manifest things within your perceived existence. Okay? You, through yourself becoming more responsible, become the cause most of what is occurring in your life. Things are no longer then happening haphazardly, without rhyme or reason, and are for your optimum benefit and pleasure, because it's you now that are manifesting your reality. You began doing life opposed to life doing you. All right? Okay. So we're going to be talking about the subjective reality, the bigger picture. Okay. The subjective reality is about the meaning. The objective experience is about what we do, what we smell, what we touch. Subjective is why we do it. What's the significance of it to us? It's about who we are, the person that lives inside. Now, some believe only the little picture is real, and that the subjective, the larger superset, is not real. But it's just the opposite. Because science often, or at least what that we perceive as being science, not more science, is unable to deal with the metaphysic aspect of reality. All right? So we're talking about the point and purpose of our lives, who we are, why we do this, and we have an intuitive sense of who we are and what we are supposed to be doing. All right? Not just playing out our lives set up, within various props placed in front of us as barriers by others. Okay? So we're going to focus in on logical sets and systems. First, when we consider these as being realms, we're looking at the larger systems and the subsystems. Okay? The larger system, we'll talk about in a moment, but the smaller system is actually our universe and everything within it, our Earth, the Milky Way, and all of those things. The larger system has to contain that, as well as all of the other metaphysical realities, those things that we call soul and spirit. That's why it's a big toe, okay, big theory of everything, opposed to a smaller one, in which Einstein was dealing with, within that subset of his limited consciousness at that particular time, because that is as far as the science could take them at that moment. But now that we are here, we're able to experience that which masterminds such as Noble Drew Ali were able to recognize that we would have the ability to do, because heretofore, or even back during the time of his placement on this plane, They didn't even have things such as television or computers, and not able to understand what would be considered as virtual reality. Okay. So, in order to understand what we're about to explore, one needs the ability to be able to comprehend what a virtual reality is. Now, that's something which, because of the computer power that we have now, the average individual on the street understands virtual realities. So now, in explaining this to you, it's not going to be like trying to tell a fish about fire, a totally aquatic creature that would have no point of reference. We now, being in this age of enlightenment, the new Moorish Renaissance, the age of Aquarius, we are able to perceive things in which our forebearers heretofore were not able to, because they had no point of reference. Now we can far more easily begin to grasp these understandings that will allow for us now to make that quantum leap forward, that exponential evolution, which doesn't take everyone. It just takes what would be called a critical mass of those able to perceive what I'm about to tell you. Before I break this down, I need to have you watch this following video as a preliminary so that you will understand part of the basics. This will assist you in being able to comprehend what will follow. This particular video is regarding what is known as fractals. We exist within a fractal binary reality. And from observing the following information, you will garner a greater appreciation of what is to follow, and it will allow for you to have a greater possibility of understanding things better as I delve into Moorish science. That I can stay on track, not wander off too far, and keep this as brief as possible, because there's a great deal of explanation that is going to be required. Also, what it does is that it allows for us to focus with more specificity on those things that are of the greatest importance. All right. So if you see me glancing down from time to time or whatever, that's what's going to be happening. I'm probably referring to a note or what have you, so don't necessarily get distracted by that. What's more important is to listen to the words that I'm saying. Take notes, because we're going to go in very deep, but certainly not as deep as one would get if they were to actually sit down and study this material, which I'm hoping that you will, and we'll provide you with sources by which you'll be able to do that. All right, so we're going to give you a lot of information, and a lot of very new information for many of you. But we'll also provide Moorish science. True Moorish science is metaphysics. All right. Now, what is metaphysics? Metaphysics is, for all intent and purpose, meta means the unknown, okay? And metaphysics means that which is not yet known or can be adequately described by physics. Physics. Physics are rule sets. They are laws. They are the underpinning cause and effect as to what creates this perceived reality. All right? But in reality, there are no meta aspects of metaphysics once one knows, because there are no mysteries. There are only missed stories. So what I'm going to try to unfold for you is, know this material already, but for those who may be new to these philosophies and sciences. With meta meaning the unknown, and coupling that with physics, the science of the rule sets that describe the cause and effect. The meta aspect of that is simply for overcoming the metaphysical, or overcoming the meta aspect of that is simply done through explanation, and that's what I hope to do here, is explain it in a comprehensible enough manner in which you will be able to, through my unfolding, understand those things that heretofore have been either hidden from you or forgotten over the course of time. All right? Now, I have a series of notes that I'm keeping here, and my notes are a series of explanations that will assist you in understanding those stories that you are not familiar with. Not in an allegorical sense, but in a scientific sense. To unravel some of the missed stories so that you can understand the bigger. The reason for my pregnant pause is I'm trying to make sure that I utilize the words that will be comprehensible, opposed to using certain phrases that will be disassociative to you. In other words, you'll have no point of reference, so it might not make sense. So if you see me in a pregnant pause, it means that I'm looking for a colloquialized nomenclature, a word that will replace what it is that I was about to say that might not be familiar to the average person listening, and that's who I'm trying to reach. Not necessarily the scientists or metaphysicists that might. Good evening, good day, and good morning. What we're going to do today is I'm going to unfold for you aspects of something that many are unfamiliar with. Even though we speak of Moorish science, very few actually know what that is.